I'm going to ask anybody if they have any questions on this pattern before we start and I ride it. I see a lot of really good horsemen in here. You guys may have some questions on some things. You may have questions on some of the ranching events. So feel free to ask any questions you have today. We don't mind answering anything, even if you feel like it's not a question that you want anybody else to hear. I promise we all need to know. So if you have something, Lynn, somebody, she always has a question. If anybody has a question, especially you, feel free to ask. So looking at this pattern, to me, one of the things, like looking at it as a judge, one of the first things I'm going to notice is at the end, if you'll notice, it is one turn either direction. So make sure you are aware of that, because if you just glance at it, it looks like you walk, stop, back, and do 2 turns. It is one turn. It shows you can go left or you can go right. So I want to make sure that everybody notices that, because I know when I judge these different places, this comes up a lot, and there's always multiple people that will go off pattern because they didn't look at the or. So we don't want that to happen to anybody tomorrow. Jeff, honey, did you know that? Jeff, he can't hear. Did you know that? Does anybody else have any questions? We just set up 1 bale. It'll be 3 bales tomorrow. Good morning, Ken. Hey, this is one of our up-and-coming stars. He's been really smoking everybody in the ranch riding. Do you have anything to say about the pattern? Have you looked at it?
I haven't looked at the level 1 pattern.
Okay, so he hasn't seen it.
Show your horse the best that you can.
Yes, ma'am. Hey.
So we have 2 places in this pattern, maneuver, in the truck, okay.
She's saying there's 2 places in this pattern that she's got a question.
Number 3 says, extended trot, continue right around straw bales, may briefly collect the trot for local parts.
So what she's asking, after you pick up the extended trot, before you go into the lope, it says you can collect before you go into that lope. So that is acceptable, a stride or 2. What we don't want is to see a horse break gait, which would be a walk. That's going to be a penalty. So I think that's there more so that you don't have to go from this position into that lope. You can sit back, get them back on their hips and go.
The judges will not be expecting them to collect. If they want to go in from the extended trot, in 1 step right.
The degree of difficulty will be much higher to go from the extended from the extended trot into the lope, so that will be, you can score higher that way. The more you collect, you're just decreasing the degree of difficulty. So, but it is allowed. You will not receive a penalty if you take a few strides at a collected trot as opposed to going into the lope from the extended trot.
And then it also says that again on maneuver 5, on the extended lope right lead, continue around approximately as it's gone, may briefly collect the lope before coming to the jog. Same deal.
So another part of the pattern she's asking about is after the extended lope at the top of the arena, that you can briefly collect to go into the trot. That, I think you're kind of going to have to do that to a certain extent. I mean, you can pull it off, but remember, you don't want to break gait there. If you come to a stop, that's a break a gait. So you just have to know your horse and know what you can do to get to that position. So let's say somebody's really extended, they sit deep, and that horse goes to the ground with 2 feet, and he slides and then goes right back into a trot. I'm not sure how the judges here are going to do it, but most of the time 2 rotations and it's a break a gait. So 2 rotations with the front feet, it's a break a gait. So you can hit the ground and then get right back into that trot, and you should be good. It'll be a high degree of difficulty maneuver. But if you stay in the ground to where the judges think you have come to a stop, that's, if they hit you for the lope, it'll be a 3-point penalty. If they hit you thinking you should be trotting, it will be a 1. So don't make the judges question what you're doing. You want to make, the whole thing with judging these events is we want to make it look easy. The transition should look effortless. The brokest horse with the best maneuver transitions that day is going to be your winner. So be aware of what your horse is capable of. Be aware of what you need to do to get him to do those maneuvers that you want him to get done. There are numerous transitions in this pattern. So if your horse is super good at upward transitions but not so good at coming down, maybe you don't want to ask quite as much before you have to come down, because it might, if they start opening their mouths or looking fussy, it's going to take away from your points. Anybody else have any questions? Ken?
You're doing great.
No questions? You don't know the pattern, so I'm not going to ask you. Anybody else that's riding this pattern?
Where are the judges sitting in the booth?
As a rule, I'm not on the panel this year, but as a rule, they're going to have them in this section right where that bar starts to the next bar. There'll be 5 judges, probably 2 on one side, 1 in the middle, and 2 on the other side. And she actually brought up a point asking about where the judges are going to be. And on this pattern, it kind of helps you, because you come around these bales and you go up that wall. So if your horse has a tendency to cling to the wall, be aware that the judges are not going to see your horse. You guys are in a perfect spot. You can see, when I'm here, you can see my horse. But if I get close, you can't see his legs. Judges can't judge what they can't see. So make sure it's your job to show your horse to the best of his ability and your ability.
Kind of addressed it earlier, but coming from that fast, extended low down to that trot transition, what's your feeling on horse? You talked about a little bit with the front feet, but if they get their hocks and slide, is that an inclusion maneuver that's not specified, or do they treat it as a break gate?
So Bear asked the question, kind of what we talked about, going from the extended lope into the trot. That's actually, as we all know, it's a pretty difficult maneuver, especially if you've got some real extension going. She was asking more about, can you hit the ground with 2 feet and hold it a little bit and go right back into the trot? I don't know if we have a director of judges here, but we're going to ask somebody that's a little higher powered than I am on that question. So, what do you feel if they're coming down from the extended lope to the trot, they put 2 feet in the ground and then trot out of it?
That's not ideal, because this is, think about it if you're out on the grass. You get out on the grass and it's slippery. This is not simulating how a horse is traveling out on the range, so that would not be
Perfect.
ideal.
Okay, so Karen just addressed something that is very, very important. The whole ranch horse division is about what a horse does outside. And if we're outside and we're doing something and we take a hold of him and he goes 2 feet to the ground, if you're on grass and it's wet, I'm sure many of you have been in the same situation as me that first time, and you don't realize what's going to happen, but that horse is his butt's going to slide under him and he's going to flip over right on top of you. So that is one of the reasons we don't do that much in the pasture, and this is a class that comes from that. So that being said, you just heard that from staff. It's not ideal. Now, whether it's going to be a penalty, I think only if you really hesitate enough to where they don't feel you went straight into a trot. Remember, a walk is a break of gait. A stop is a break of gait. So your job is to keep your horse, even if you have to hit that extended trot for a stride and then bring him back. The smoothest transition in that maneuver is what we're looking for. That was a good question, Leslie. Did that help at all? I think what Karen said about it all coming down from the ranching is kind of answered it for us. Any questions, Jeff? Okay. Sorry if I'm singling any of you guys out, but we have some wonderful horsemen in here. Pete, he's trying to stay under the radar over here. You have any questions?
I'm good.
Okay. Anybody else? I'll try not to embarrass you. Okay. Anything else on this pattern before? I'll try and ride it. My horse is like a little bit goosey, so I may have to lope around a time or two before I do it. He's not liking my speaker here a whole lot. It's making some funny noises for him.
I've got one more question. On your extended lope, you're going to be loping around there on the right lane. That's a pretty tight turn. But from a judge's point of view, like if you've got put too much on that, coming around on that turn, and obviously the horse gets a drop of the shoulder, doesn't look good or whatever. I mean, you're better off just kind of maybe medium as tight as that turn.
So Ben asked a really, really good question. He was asking about when we do the extended lope around the end, it is going to be a little bit tight because you have to stay on the top side of that windmill. We all know what our horses are capable of. Some horses are going to be a little looky. I know mine will be at things in that corner there, and there's some funny noises that going down there. I kind of keep looking at it too. But so he was asking, would it, from a judge's standpoint, if that horse is a little bit scary down there, I may gear back just a little and not extend as much so my horse doesn't drop his shoulder. We all know that if they get a little scared, that's a possibility. Keep in mind what you're capable of, what your horse is capable of. This past, I guess it's been a year or two now, it used to be any time a horse was out of lead, it was a 3-point penalty in the ranch riding, and they have changed it to a 1-point penalty for up to 2 strides. You get away with it. The 3rd stride, it goes to a 3-point. So a lot of times, and this goes back to Ben's question, a lot of times, if they get a little tight, they're liable to pop out a lead that 1 stride. Try and get them back in because, you don't want to get to 3 points. So if you feel something like that, try and fix it in that 1 or 2 stride window because it'll save you 2 more points per judge. And there again, I know it's probably going to embarrass me a little bit when I first start to do this pattern because he's decided there's a booger down there. And so, you know, we're all going to get in here in the practice and let them realize it's not going to be terrible, but we'll get to see probably an example of that the first time I try it. Anything else? Jesse? Anybody? Oh, I see a hand. So I don't know if you guys know my friend Debbie Cooper here. She truly, to me, she's my hero. She's a legend. She's done every event there is. I cannot say enough good things about her as a horseman, and the questions she asks are going to help us all. Yeah, that's another story for another day.
So my question to you is, going along with this back wall, we look at this pattern, that end is drawn kind of like a straight line. Personally, I told my people to follow that wall, use that wall, and come around there. But it really is drawn like they're off.
So Debbie's a judge. I judge a lot. The question she asks is, the way this pattern is drawn, it looks kind of like a straight line down there. One of the things that I am told over and over about the ranch classes is this isn't like Western riding or horsemanship where you have to do the maneuver at the exact place, exactly the way it's written. We have a little more leeway because we're more interested in the transitions and how that horse would carry you from one job to another on a ranch. So you are not going to get penalized, I don't feel like, if you are a little more curved. Like Debbie was saying, she told her amateurs to kind of hug that wall a little bit, which is going to keep it from being a flat line. You have that choice. You can do that. I don't feel that the judges are going to have a problem with that. There's probably going to be some others that are going to make it a straight line across. If you make the straight line and you're in a little bit, it is going to make it a little tighter, making that turn on the top side of that windmill. So, you know, you want to kind of have in your mind where you want to be for your maneuvers. And then, as we all know, when we get out there, sometimes we have to make different choices because of the horse we're riding that day and what's happening. So you go with a plan, make sure you're thinking about the plan, but sometimes plans don't always go the way we want, and we may have to make some changes. And so I plan to make a straight line if I was doing that pattern, but depending on what it felt like when I got down there, I would love to tell you I've already ridden this, but I have not. There was a gazillion people in here, and so I'm fresh and green on it as well. So you'll get to see me make a mistake or two, I'm sure. Anything else, anybody? Okay, let's see, I'm going to hand this over. All right. Yeah, so right there in the beginning, we were talking, she was going to have me start at the gate, but the angle wasn't what it's written on here. And as we talked about before, it's not exact, but I think that if you start anywhere from probably according to the way this looks, I think if you are anywhere in this area, I don't think they're going to have a cone there, correct? So you will have some leeway on this. If you feel like you want to start here, I think you're going to be okay. Me personally, I think I want to, it looks like it's a straight line to that first bale into the windmill. So I think that's where I'm going to try to start, is right in this area. As I say, this is This is just a suggestion. I'm not telling you how to ride this pattern. I'm giving you suggestions. We'll get to see. I imagine he may get a little tough down there that first time I do it, but we're just going to ride through it and see what we have. It'll be kind of interesting for me to ride it the first time as well. Thank you. Appreciate you. All right, let's see. And then y'all can pick on me when I finish. All right, so it is an extended walk, so I want to make sure I get as much extension as I can at this point. Halfway, I'm going to try and pick up my trot. You want to try to make it look easy to steer. About right here, it looks like we pick up the extended. Whether you stand or whether you post, it's going to be what works for you. Make sure when you get to this point, don't hug that wall. Like when I came around there, it felt just a little bit like I was going to end up too close to the wall. So make sure you have a plan. When I'll come back and start from there, but make sure, Karen, do I have to start from the beginning for? I can try. It bounces.
The thing is, everybody in here watching live, Shelly's also lined up for the video, and this video will be posted. And so, a little bit of your trouble hearing will also have it, and the video will be very clear. That line's very clear, and it'll be posted sometime soon today. So we've got several ways. You can watch it live, and then you can go back and repeat it.
I have a good idea. Why don't you talk while I'm doing this?
Okay.
All right.
Continue with the mic for a minute. So there we go. Start out walking. You pick the area where you want to start. Walk. In this area edge, break into a trot. Remember, this is about showing how your horse will guide, how it'll move forward, how it'll carry you through the path. Long trot. Show that you can guide and extend the trot. Extend the trot on. You may collect if you want, you don't have to. Right lobe right there. A straight right lobe, the other hand. Remember your judges will be on that wall, so don't hug that wall. Into an extended right lobe.
So,
Again, the judges want to see if your horse will guide it extended. Break to a trot, trot across the center, and then into a left lobe. Left lobe again, so that you can guide. Guide on across the arena. Circle, it's up to you. That circle can be small, that circle can be big.
or you can make
Depends
it,
on your horse, depends on what you want to show the judges.
you can make it big, you can make it little.
Yeah, Shelley's saying the same thing. You can make it big, you can make it little. That's totally up to you and how you want to present the animal. I think we have an extra loop there. And then break to. Shelley, is that an extended trot there again?
No, it's a trot.
Okay, it's a trot.
It-
Break to extend, or a trot.
And so then it's a walk, it's a trot, walk, stop, back, one turn either direction.
Okay, can you do that last piece again?
Yeah.
Sorry guys.
No.
It's a trot to a walk to a stop and back, and then one turn, you pick the direction. So she's going to finish up her loop around there. You decide how far you want to carry it around.
So like right there, I felt if I make it too tight, it doesn't, the last part's extended.
Yes.
Okay. If I make that line too tight, it doesn't give me a lot of room. So for me, I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, and it'll give me a better area to trot down.
So she's going to make her circle bigger so she can shake up better with that extended trot. So loop around. It's just one circle. She's going to make it a little bigger there so she can shake up, drop to a long trot, trot on down, so that that horse will cover some ground, and then walk. Demonstrate a walk, demonstrate a back.
Turn either way, but one turn.
One turn either way. You pick.
And that's the end of the pattern.
That's the end of the pattern. The next horse will be ready in their area to start. The judges will have a flag most likely to start you, so when you're starting, look for the flag. As you finish, just please exit the arena expeditiously.
I may not know what that word means. Quickly, rapidly. So it did, like my horse was just a little bit hinky down there. He's just that way, so I made it a little straighter than maybe what Debbie was talking about. And I did slow down too soon. So I would suggest when you are riding that pattern, keep in mind, because I felt myself slowing my horse down when I made that curve. So that's not going to hurt you, but to get more credit, you want to keep the pace or the extension up until you make that straight line and get to your trot. So after doing that, that was my first inclination to slow myself down in that turn or to shorten his stride up a little bit. So, you know, be aware of that. You may find yourself wanting to do that. Any questions? Yeah, you can do it. I didn't feel like it also looks like you need to get straight before you go to that trot. And if I trotted and let him lope into the curve, I actually wouldn't be doing the pattern as drawn either. And I want this to look as smooth as possible, so every chance I get to where I can use more room, it as a rule looks smoother. The one that's probably going to win and place the highest is the one that it looks the easiest. And so for me, it was easier to use the whole arena, and there's no jerking motions, it's not cutting corners, and it's keeping my horse honest. But that was a very good question. Anybody else? You guys realize that the ranch riders always bring more than everybody else. That's been the way it's been. All right, so I'm going to try this. Hopefully it'll be, so the question I had, like, I came in about where he's standing, and when I did the rollback, it kind of had me way on this side of the arena. I felt like I had a rectangle instead of a square. So me personally, I'm gonna start about where that cone is and try and just stay a little bit further on that side of the arena.
She's going a little off center this way, and she's going to
little more time.
And she thinks it'll ride better. Now again, that is a suggestion. You do what's good for your horse. Obviously, a bigger strutted horse probably needs to be over to the right more. Maybe if it's a little shorter strutted horse, it's not as much of a concern. That's totally up to you and your horse. So she's going to take off, step right into a long trot. There we go, extended. Good and straight forward.
Whoa.
Stop. Roll back. Step off into a right lead. Around the corner in the right lead. Another turn in the right lead. And then extend. Show that your horse can extend straight. And then show that it can come guided and extend a little around that corner and another one. Once you make the corner, it's a trot. Trot, center-ish. A little shorter, a little long is fine. Into a walk, a good forward walk. Guide and walk. There we go. But paying attention but not spooking. There we go. Now this is Shelley's point. Walk far enough. That's part of the maneuver. Make sure you walk on past those blocks. Then another trot. Trot up to the top of the arena. Another corner. Towards the center. Now this does require a left turn. It's not an option, it's a left turn. And step off into a left low.